Hey guys, we are finally beginning our coverage of The Amazing Race 35 by doing a power ranking for episode 1. And so far, the season's alright, sort of what to expect from The Amazing Race, although it's not entirely clear what we're going to see from these 9-minute episodes. As well, there are some promising developments like the return of the Express Pass, as well as the return of airport drama or potential airport drama. I am still worried about what 90-minute Amazing Race will do in terms of the entertainment, or whether it'll feel a bit dragged out. I feel like so far, I feel like there's some pretty interesting stuff to break down here. But with all that out of the way, there are 13 teams to break down, and let's not waste any more time, let's get right into the video. So starting off at number 13, we have the boots from this week, and here we have Alexandra and Sheridan. And they were obviously towards the back of the pack for a lot of the leg, where they were one of the last teams to get to each part of the leg, though they weren't in last place, as for a lot of it, like they were at least ahead of Elizabeth and Ilana, as well as Liam and Yery. Although due to their decision to take this sword detour, the slower one, that kind of caused them to fall behind, where they sort of got caught up in doing that a lot. That allowed those other teams to catch up and eventually overtake them by the end of it. So it makes sense why they're taken out here. And again, they were fine enough as a team, but really it's that mistake at the end of them taking the detour that caused them to fall out. And because of that, they are here number 13. And with that, there are 12 teams left in the race to talk about. And as usual, I'll be ranking them based on how likely I think they are to win the race. But at number 12, we have the team that was sort of in the back of the pack for a lot of the race. And here we have Elizabeth and Ilana. And again, they were sort of in the back of the pack as well, where they were the last to reach the roadblock. However, they were able to move up a couple spots, mainly due to the likes of Liam and Yery falling behind, as well as Joe and Ian getting lost on their way to the airport. But obviously, like they did get caught up towards the end, where they were forced to wait when they got to the massage due to the spots being taken up. And they were eventually able to overtake Alexandra and Sheridan due to them choosing to stay at that detour over going to the sword one. That allowed them to finish second to last. And I feel like between them and Liam and Yery, I feel like I have less faith in them as racers compared to those two, which is a big reason why I had them below. And because of that, they are here at number 12. Now we're moving on to number 11, and we have another team that was sort of in the back of the pack for a lot of the leg. And here we have Liam and Yery. Now, I feel like in terms of characters, I feel like Liam and Yery didn't get as much screen time as Elizabeth and Ilana, which is probably not a great sign for them long term. However, I feel like as racers, I feel like they managed the leg a bit better, where yes, they did fall into last place after their flight. However, I feel like they were able to catch up due to them picking the right detour there. They were able to leapfrog some teams there, and due to them probably being one of the more physical teams, they were even able to go from 10th place at the end of the detour to 8th place by the end of the leg. So I feel like that jump from behind was enough to give me a bit of confidence in them, though realistically I don't really see how they win the race based off how bad they did this leg, which is why they are here at number 11. Now moving on to number 10, and we have a team that was in the front for a lot of it, but due to them making a pretty big mistake, they end up falling way behind. And here we have Andrea and Lena. Now, they actually did all right during the first half of the leg, where they were the third to reach the roadblock. They were part of the first flight, to Bangkok there, and they were even the second team to the marker after the flight. But they ended up making a pretty big mistake by choosing the sword detour that caused them to fall behind, going from 6th place at the start of the detour to 8th place by the time they eventually finished it. And due to other teams beating them to the pit stop, they ended up falling all the way to 10th place. Which, considering how they started off the leg, is obviously a pretty bad decline there. And I feel like the fact that they chose the wrong detour is probably not the best sign for them going forward. But again, I feel like compared to these other teams, they were at least had higher highs for a lot of the leg. Though obviously they showed a lot of variance there, which doesn't give me too much confidence in them moving forward, which is why they are here at number 10. Now we're moving on to number 9, and we have another very up and down team, but here we have Joe and Ian, and obviously they're probably going to be pretty big characters across the season. However, this leg was pretty abysmal if you ask me, where they did get off to a pretty hot start, where they were the second team to reach the roadblock. They were even the 4th team to finish the roadblock, even ahead of that big clump of people that emerged in the end there. However, due to them getting lost on their way to the airport, they were the last team to arrive at the airport, which is pretty bad. And they later choose the wrong detour, which caused them to further slide from 8th place at the start of the detour to 11th place. And yes, while they are able to make up ground to where they eventually get ninth place, it's still not great, where they obviously have pretty bad navigation to a degree, as well as, again, not picking the right detour is not great on their end. But again, I feel like they definitely have some room to recover moving forward. But I feel like for now, 9 is about as high as I can put them. Now moving on to number 8, and we have another team that was kind of whatever for a lot of the leg. They didn't really impress me too much, though they were technically third from last. And here we have Robin and Chelsea. And again, their race so far has been kind of mediocre, where again, they were kind of in the middle of the pack early on. They did end up not making the first flight and ending up being on the second flight. However, while they are able to pick the right detour, they are also kind of in the back of the pack to a degree, where eventually they do fall all the way to 11th place. And in general, I'm just not feeling that great about them. I mean, screen time, they don't really pop out to me. And I feel like in general, like they're probably like not gonna do super well. But again, I feel like their track record so far has been a bit more impressive than some of the other teams we already talked about, which is why they're here at number 8. Now moving on to number 7, and we have a team kind of similar to Robin and Chelsea. However, I feel like they had a bit more of an upswing towards the back half of the leg. And here we have Steve and Annalie. Now, they did get out to a pretty rough start where they were the 10th team to arrive at the roadblock, though they were able to make up some ground due to other teams getting stuck on the roadblock. And then obviously through the airport being an equalizer, they are able to, again, not lose too much ground there. Now, again, they do benefit due to other teams screwing up on the detour. That results in them being able to catch up to 6th place by the end of the detour due to them picking the massage one. And obviously they end up in 6th place, right around the middle of the pack. And on the whole, again, I feel like Steve and Annalie will probably be okay on the race. However, I feel like due to them having, like a bit more of a consistent track record, I feel like 7 is a good spot for them. Now moving on to number 6, and we have another team that I really enjoyed watching, and I feel like similar to Steve and Annalie, they kind of had an upswing after a bit of a slow start, and here we have Joel and Garrett. Now, they did get out to a slow start, like I said. They were 11th to the roadblock, and they were technically the last to finish the roadblock as well. Although they were able to make up some pretty impressive ground when they were getting to the airport, where even though they just missed out on getting to the first flight, the fact that they went from last place at the end of the roadblock to 7th place when they got to the airport, I think that's pretty impressive on its own. And they are able to remain around that spot for the rest of the leg. 7th to get to the detour, 7th to finish overall. And again, I feel like there'll be pretty fun characters across the season. But I feel like with them being a bit more consistent, I feel like they probably fit around the middle of the list so far, which is why they're here at number 6. Now moving on to number 5, and we actually have the top 5 finishers from the leg. And I feel like these 5 teams have been pretty impressive so far, and it's just a matter of ordering them. By number 5, I did decide to go with a team that slipped up a bit more, and here we have Todd and Ashley, where if you look at their placement across the leg, it's actually pretty consistent, where they remain around 4th to 5th place for most of it, and we even get that impressive move from Todd where he's able to figure out the roadblock before everyone else, and even makes that deal with them saying that he'll give them the answer if he can jump the line, which obviously allows him to catch that first flight and build some good favor with the other teams. However, they do make a bit of a slip up during the detour where they accidentally stop it, causing the timer to reset. That did allow them to fall from 4th place to 5th place. However, they are able to maintain that. I do feel like Todd and Ashley are pretty impressive so far, and I feel like through that, they are a potential team that can do well moving forward. However, with their slip up there, as well as them not quite reaching the same highs as the other teams, I did decide to leave them there at number 5. Now moving on to number 4, and I did consider putting this team below Todd and Ashley, as even though they have higher highs, they are less consistent across the leg, though I still find them to be a mostly impressive team, and a team that I expect to be a major character force moving forward. And here we have Greg and John. Now, the thing about Greg and John is they do get out to a very hot start where, again, they do very well being the first to reach the roadblock, and they're the first to finish the roadblock, and they're even the first to reach the airport. However, once they get to Bangkok, I mean, their performance starts to slide, where they are only the 16th to reach the route info. They're the 15th to reach the detour. However, due to Todd and Ashley's mistake, they're able to get to 4th place. And due to their maneuvering after the detour, they were even able to outpace Morgan and Lena to where they end up finishing third in the leg. So I feel like while their middle leg wasn't as impressive, I feel like they were able to get up to a hot start. Plus, they were able to have a strong enough finish to where I feel like they're going to be pretty impressive moving forward. But again, I feel like that lack of consistency in the middle was enough to have them here at number 4. Now moving on to number 3. And again, I feel like these 3 teams were all more impressive than the others, and it's just a matter of ordering them again. But at number 3, I did decide to go with Morgan and Lena. And really a lot of that came down to placement, where obviously they only end up finishing 4th across the leg, though you can attribute some of that due to the fact that they went for the express pass after landing in Bangkok, which they successfully got. However, if we are looking at the rest of their leg, they did kind of fall behind during the roadblock where they went from 7th place to 10th place, not great. However, they are able to recover pretty nicely, racing their way to the airport just in time to make it on the first flight that allowed them to get the express pass. So I find that pretty impressive. And obviously, through that, they are able to hold on, being able to get 3rd place across the detour. However, they do fall behind to 4th place by the end of it. However, I still feel like Morgan and Lena did impressive work during the course of the leg, being able to stay in the top of the pack despite them having a slow start. However, I feel like the top 2 teams, I feel like have more skills, and I feel like they're probably better set up to do well, which is why they're here at number 3. Now moving on to number 2, and I feel like these teams are pretty similar, and I did debate them to a degree. But at number 2, I actually decided to go with the team that won the leg, and here we have Joselyn and Victor. And again, I feel like they're a pretty impressive team as well. Obviously, they did get out to a bit of a slow start. However, they were able to do pretty well, going from 8th place at the start of the roadblock to 3rd. And obviously, they were able to stay within the top 4 for the rest of the leg, where they were able to be the first to reach the detour, first to finish, and obviously they end up winning the leg. So I feel like obviously that's pretty impressive on its own. Now you can attribute some of that to the location, where it seemed like they were able to communicate with the locals pretty well, which allowed them to navigate pretty well. So it's a bit of a question mark over how well they'll be able to navigate future destinations, but I still feel like their performance so far has been pretty solid, and because of that, they are here at number 2. And now, at number 1, the team that I believe is the most likely to win the amazing race right now is Rob and Corey. And I feel like their performance is very similar to that of Joselyn and Victor's, probably more impressive considering they have higher highs and less low lows, where they are middle of the pack to start off at the roadblock, but they are very quickly able to catch up, getting to 2nd place at the end of the roadblock, and from there they're able to remain in the top 3 the rest of the leg. They're 2nd to reach the detour, 2nd to finish, and obviously they end up getting 2nd place on the leg. I feel like they're setting up to be a very impressive team, sort of similar to Joselyn and Victor. However, I feel like Rob and Corey are a team that I'm inherently a bit more confident in, considering that they are a bit on the younger side, and considering that they seem to be a bit more well-rounded. Though again, we'll have to see what happens in future legs. But I feel like for now, I feel like based off my feelings of these teams so far, I feel like Rob and Corey seem to be the more consistent team, and it's for that reason that I have them here at number 1. And there we go, that will do it for this week's video. If you like this content, be sure to like and subscribe, really helps out the channel. Now I'll be back again next week to update the power rankings again, so stay tuned for that. I'm currently covering Survivor 45 and Big Brother 25, so you can expect future power rankings of those shows. I am also on Patreon now, so if you want to consider supporting the channel, you can do so by clicking the link in the description. And if you haven't already, you can join the Discord server as well by clicking the link in the description. There's a lot of stuff coming your way, but for now, that's the video. See ya.